Incredible connection revealed. How a poor girl's touching sign language transformed a billionaire's future. Mia's heart raced each time she pushed through the swinging hospital doors, where she volunteered her weekends to escape the suffocating walls of her cramped apartment. It wasn't just the murmur of anxious voices or the sterile smell that made her palms sweat. It was the weight of her own enormous dreams. Dreams that seemed almost laughable for a girl with fading hearing and a mother juggling 2 jobs just to keep them afloat. She craved to change the world through innovative communication. Yet here she was, feeling swallowed by her own insecurities, in a place that brimmed with affluent success stories that pointed out just how small and insignificant she felt as she maneuvered through the neat rows of patient rooms. Mia couldn't shake the echoes of disbelief that haunted her. Was she capable of making a difference? Would anyone really listen? The world seemed designed for those without barriers, leaving her stifled by the very communication that defined her. But she had her grandparents, who understood her unspoken struggles better than anyone. They encouraged her with every sign, every word in their shared language, igniting the flicker of hope within her. And then, she met him. Grant Sullivan, the tech mogul who once had the world's ear and now reverberated under the heavy shackles of scandal, sat beside her one afternoon, an enigma crafted from both loss and brilliance. Their initial conversation unfolded through her beloved sign language, an unguarded dialogue that felt entirely natural. As their fingers danced, conveying emotions words often failed to articulate, she saw something shift behind his eyes. In this man, burdened by failure yet powerful in vision, she found an unexpected connection. It terrified her. But as the hours wore on, the contrasts between their lives warped the budding solace. Who was she, really? A girl from a 1-bedroom apartment with limited opportunities, grappling with hearing loss, reduced to whispers of consciousness? And Grant, surrounded by plush boardrooms and tailored suits, was his life now mere consolation? Conflict swirled in her thoughts, betraying her own fears for a chance at greater things. This tension was palpable. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the requests for ideas from Grant's company poured in, the stakes escalated. A rival corporation lurked nearby with sinister plans for a device that could harm those like Mia. It filled her with a sense of urgency and betrayal. Why would she even consider standing alongside someone who was part of that world? Racing thoughts left her breathless, and her throat tightened with despair. Torn between familial loyalty and a growing desire to reshape the industry, what if she failed? Could she endure the fallout if she chose the wrong path? In that moment, as she stood before the mirror, biting her lip and signing her trembling aspirations, the weight of their budding relationship pressed upon her. Would her sincerity cut through the noise of betrayal and preconceived notions? Could she really believe that her voice, her true voice, could break the chains of doubt holding her back? The storm encircling them felt on the brink of breaking, and with her heart pounding, she confronted her thoughts, knowing she had to share her truth tomorrow. The audience, filled with anticipatory whispers, waited. What would be revealed? What would she choose? Mia stood backstage, the glaring lights piercing her thoughts, illuminating every ounce of doubt embedded in her psyche. The auditorium buzzed with anticipation, filled with faces eager to see the bold move of an unexpected player in a corporate narrative. As she gazed into the mirrors lining the back wall, she saw not just her reflection but the embodiment of her conflict, a girl wrestling with the weight of her ambitions and the shackles of her origin. The emotions twisted inside her like a tempest. She was about to step into a world thriving on influence, where her voice, usually so timid, would be amplified into a room brimming with industry giants. But what if her voice failed to carry its intended impact? What if, in this moment, she defined her future path not by dignity, but by the shadows of betrayal? Inhaling deeply, she traced the contours of her decision-making process. This presentation was not merely about concepts or business strategies. It was a tangible manifestation of her experiences, her struggles with hearing loss, and her relentless quest for more inclusive communication solutions. The idea that had sparked between her and Grant transcended technology. It was woven from shared hopes and fears, a chance for empowerment rooted solely in understanding. With a flick of her wrist, she adjusted her bracelet, a gift from her grandparents, an anchor of resilience that reminded her where she came from. Each bead represented a story of courage, each glimmer an affirmation of possibility. Yet, was it enough to make her voice matter? As she stepped into the spotlight, the murmur grew still. It wasn't the fear of public speaking that gripped her. It was the fear of judgment, of slipping back into the shadows where it was so easy to stay. Mia's heart raced, her mind aligning every thought into coherent words, a mental map she hoped would lead to clarity. "Good morning, everyone." Her voice, wavering but resolute, resonated through the room. She greeted them with a hesitant smile, fingers poised, ready to sign her thoughts alongside spoken words. "Today, I want to talk about bridging gaps in communication, gaps in understanding, and the significant role technology can play." As she launched into her presentation, the initial tremor of insecurity blossomed into a passionate rhythm, her words flowing seamlessly with her signs. Each gesture unspooled a different thread of her narrative, revealing her journey, the fears she faced, and her visions for innovation. The audience leaned in closer, captivated not just by her ideas but by the authenticity of her passion. Yet, in the back of her mind, a nagging thought stirred. What if they misunderstood her message? What if they labeled her a naive dreamer rather than a formidable competitor? A lingering sense of unease draped over her, and her breaths quickened amidst the heated exchange of industry rhetoric. But as she shared her carefully crafted solutions, she noticed subtle shifts in expressions around her. An investor, typically dismissive, nodded in enthusiasm. A rival executive shifted uncomfortably in his seat. As their attention converged on her, she grasped the monumental power of her narrative, a power she could wield not just for herself, but for countless voices muffled by systemic barriers. Mia finished strong, listing actionable strategies and inviting collaboration to redefine how technology could nurture inclusivity. But as she stepped back after her final slide, the silence in the room enveloped her, heavy and pregnant with consequence. Would they embrace her vision, or dismiss it as an ephemeral breath in the corporate wind? Grant's eyes met hers across the stage, a mixture of pride and expectation flooding his gaze. She stood at the precipice of possibility, teetering on the edge of transformation. But in the depths of her heart, she knew the real milestone was yet to unfold. The audience's acceptance could lead to opportunities, but she needed to confront another truth. The looming threat from the rival corporation hung heavily over her ambitions. The moment of revelation spurred a question that would demand to be answered in the days ahead. What price was she willing to pay for her convictions, and would she be ready to confront the opponent waiting in the shadows? Mia's heart raced as she stepped off the stage, the weight of uncertainty still thick in the air. The applause faded into a ringing silence in her ears, and for a fleeting moment, she felt suspended in time. Had she really resonated with them? Had she skillfully bridged those gaps she had fought so hard to define? Grant rushed towards her, an exuberant grin stretching across his face. "You did it, Mia. You were incredible." His enthusiasm enveloped her like a warm blanket. Yet, beneath the surface of his praise, a storm brewed inside her. Would their shared vision stand strong against the pressing forces of the rival corporation? She felt the gnawing tension in her stomach tighten as her mind flitted through possible scenarios, each one more daunting than the last. "Thanks, Grant." Her voice barely rose above a murmur, the quietness not just the aftermath of her performance but an acknowledgement of the call to arms she had yet to answer. As her colleagues began to gather around, the energy surrounding her shifted. Conversations buzzed with potential partnerships and investor interest, yet Mia remained on the edge, absorbing the atmosphere rather than fully participating. She wrestled with the inner conflict of wanting to celebrate her accomplishments while feeling the shadows of rival threats looming over her. Moments later, she found herself amidst a group discussing tangible next steps. Investors leaned in, discussing financial backing and strategic planning. Yet Mia felt detached, like an observer amidst the tide of excitement. She longed to dive into the nuances of strategy and collaboration but was derailed by the echoes of doubt that flared with every pivotal decision. "Are you ready to take this to the next level?" Grant posed the question, his brow furrowed as he assessed her hesitance. "Yeah, of course. But what?" he pressed, an earnest tone in his voice. "I know we can make a difference, but with the competitor's reputation, their resources, and the history of how they treated innovation," her voice trailed off, leaving the sentence hanging heavily in the air. "Every giant has a weakness," he countered, unwavering in his belief in their vision. "And unlike them, we have authenticity backing us. We experienced the struggle ourselves." His assurance momentarily stilled the whirlwind inside her, allowing clarity to pierce through her fear. She took a deep breath, every inhale reinforcing her resolve. "I need to do more than just speak. I need to prepare for whatever they throw at us." As the meeting transitioned into details of funding and logistics, Mia felt a newfound urgency galvanizing her thoughts. Strategizing against a competitor meant understanding their weaknesses. Stepping into the role of a formidable player required more than innovation. It meant fortifying her emotional intelligence and using her empathy as a weapon. The very next day, armed with her strategic instinct, she planned a covert operation to gather insights into the rival corporation's innovations and tactics. She envisioned herself infiltrating their launch events disguised as an observer. It wasn't underhanded. It was an intelligent move in the chess game of corporate dominance. Yet, amidst her planning, the fragility of her emotions resurfaced. How long could she wear this mask of confidence? Would the cost of this maneuver compromise her deeply held values? The tension tightened around her, binding her to a decision that wove her personal integrity into the fabric of her ambitions. That night, as she lay in bed, her thoughts wrestled with the competing narratives of her journey. She feared the price of abandoning her authenticity, the very thing that had propelled her to this moment. But as the clock ticked closer to dawn, Mia felt the transformative power of her purpose swell inside her, not just to change technology, but to reshape the very notion of influence. "You're stronger than you think," she whispered to herself, hardly convincing even her own heart. And with dawn's light filtering through her window, she resolved to take charge, to dive boldly into the fray. The time had come to face whatever awaited her in the battlefield of corporate competition, and to seek out the truth behind her rival's shadowy tactics. What awaited her could decide the very fate of her ambition, and the spirit underpinning every choice she would make from that day forward. The morning light was a harsh reminder of the decision she had made. Mia rose with a distinct sense of purpose, but doubts still gnawed at her insides. She prepared for the day, her mind racing through a myriad of potential interactions with her rival's corporate environment. Would her disguise be enough to blend in, or would her nerves give her away? The thought sent a shiver down her spine, but beneath that fear lay determination and insatiable drive to expose the truths that her competitor veiled. Once she arrived at the rival corporation's headquarters, Mia feigned confidence, her heart a drum in her chest. She walked through the sleek glass entry, past reception, where an indifferent glance from the attendant ignited her resolve. This was her chance to learn, to engage with the atmosphere that had for so long felt just out of reach. She visualized herself not as an intruder but as an industry player gathering intelligence, each step forward a calculated risk. She navigated the vibrant hallways adorned with modern art, her senses heightened. Colors, noises, and conversations around her became potential clues. In this environment, every detail felt like it held a key to unlocking her competitor's strategies. Yet, self-doubt hung heavy. She questioned her capability to connect with the people around her. Would they notice her? Would they see her through the guise she had carefully crafted? Mia positioned herself near the sidelines of an ongoing discussion about an upcoming product launch. Eavesdropping quietly, she noticed the body language of the executives, a mix of grandeur and urgency that only increased her anxiety. They shifted their weight conspiratorially, using gestures laden with significance. Yet as she watched, she felt a flicker of excitement. Could she adapt to this environment? Perhaps her own narrative of struggle would give her an edge in this field of polished professionals. As she took careful notes in a discreet pad she had brought, her mind wandered to her personal struggle. Was she truly ready to play this game? Her heart pounded harder as she contemplated using what she had learned from the former disarray of her upbringing. She had often navigated difficult conversations, often speaking her truth in a world where many chose silence. The path ahead required this same courage. Just as she felt a surge of clarity, a voice crackled through her thoughts, one of her biggest fears personified. Mia! Her name sliced through her concentration, and she turned to face a familiar figure. Lucien, head of her rival's innovation department. What are you doing here? He regarded her with a mix of surprise and curiosity, eyebrows raised. The lump in her throat shouted that the wrong word could unravel everything. Just, exploring, she managed, her own conviction faltering. Lucien had a reputation for his sharp wit and even sharper judgment. She silently cursed her impulsive decision to venture out as herself. Right? The small tech firm Scout, he smiled, but there was an edge to it. You might want to reconsider playing around where you don't belong. Each word felt like a challenge and an invitation at once, igniting the fire within her to confront not just Lucien, but what he represented. The very barriers she was determined to dismantle. As the moment hung heavy in the air, Mia felt the adrenaline surge now anchoring her resolve. Why not? SNT that how the best ideas are born through exploration. The words hung there, a delicate dance of defiance. Lucien chuckled, but the laughter felt less dismissive, as though she struck a chord. Good response, but remember, curiosity can oftentimes lead to trouble. In that instant, she realized this was more than just a networking moment. It was a critical breach point, her first genuine confrontation with the opposition. As he moved away, a sense of urgency wrapped around her. Mia was no longer just an observer. She was engaged. Yet, the risk of exposure loomed ominously over her heart. What would be the next move in this game? Would she play it safe or engage fully in this high-stakes dance? With the weight of that decision pressing on her, Mia understood that her journey was just heating up. A battle of intellect and integrity had begun, demanding her unwavering resolve. What strategy would she employ to turn the tide in her favor? And would she find the strength to redefine herself amidst rivalry? The waiting game had only just started. Mia stood frozen for a moment after Lucien walked away, her heart pounding with an exhilarating mix of fear and excitement. The encounter had shifted something within her. She was no longer just an observer on the sidelines. She felt the raw pull of possibility and the weight of her aspirations. But with this surge came an undeniable question: was she ready to make a mark in a world that had often seemed unattainable? As she collected her thoughts, Mia quickly scanned her surroundings. The sleek corporate decor morphed from austere facades into opportunities to learn. Each conversation she overheard, every interaction she witnessed, could fuel her growth. She spotted a group discussing the competitive edge they had gained through innovative software solutions. Curiosity sparked within her again. Could what they shared offer insight into the strategies she needed for her own business? Determined, Mia stepped closer, trying to absorb their dialogue without being too conspicuous. The intricacies of their language fascinated her. The way they expressed ideas seemed so effortless, while she struggled to keep up with the rapid exchange of thoughts. It was a clear reminder of her past, how out of place she often felt in environments like this. But instead of retreating, she used that discomfort to fuel her drive, pushing through her inhibitions. Suddenly, one of the executives turned and locked eyes with her. A young woman, poised and clearly confident. Pretending to be invisible won't help you stand out, she remarked, sparking mild surprise in the group. There was no trace of judgment. It was an impromptu invitation for connection. Mia felt the heat rush to her cheeks, but she met the woman's gaze, albeit hesitant. I'm just gathering some competitive intel, she replied, the defiance from her conversation with Lucien reawakening. Learning from the best can't hurt, right? The woman's smile widened. You'd be surprised. Just remember, in this game, it's not just about intelligence but also about integration. With that, she waved Mia over to join their discussion. The world around her momentarily blurred and sharpened again, as she felt a tug toward growth. This was an opportunity to immerse herself deeper, to embrace the very uncertainty that once held her back. As the group discussed their new marketing strategies, Mia started to contribute, surprising herself with how relevant her insights felt. They detailed their analysis of customer engagement, and Mia seized the moment to share concepts she had learned in her studies: the importance of authentic connection in tech solutions, the human aspect often overlooked in analytics. The executives began to nod, intrigued by her perspective. In that instant, she flickered between doubt and self-assuredness, feeding on their reactions to strengthen her confidence. Each amenity of shared understanding granted her a sense of belonging she hadn't anticipated. Yet, amid the validation blossoming within her, a nagging thought surfaced. How much of what she shared felt genuine versus what she hoped they wanted to hear? The tension within fueled further internal analysis. Was she still playing a role, maintaining a facade? Or was she gradually evolving into her true self, shedding the skin of self-doubt? Ultimately, a voice chimed in from the opposite side of the room, Lucien discreetly observing. His quiet amusement at the entire scene posed a new challenge. Did he see potential in her, or merely a petty competitor trying to infiltrate? As the conversation wound down, Mia felt invigorated but also aware of the burden of expectation she was consciously crafting. She was now part of a dialogue that mattered, yet with every word she spoke, a burning question lingered. How far was she willing to push her newfound connections before risking exposure? The moment became a paradox of thrilling discovery and latent danger. As she caught Lucien's eye again, she felt both vulnerable and emboldened, her personal development spiraling into a new phase as she weighed her next course of action. With each passing moment, Mia understood that true growth entailed bravery. Yet, the stakes were about to escalate. She would soon need to confront not just Lucien but the very essence of her ambition. What would that confrontation reveal about her? Would she finally unlock her authentic self, or would fears suffocate her aspirations? Mia's mind whirled as the last echoes of the conversation faded. She had crossed an invisible threshold, one that had once kept her firmly rooted in self-doubt. But now the exhilaration felt different. It carried the weight of accountability. She was no longer just a passive participant in discussions surrounding her goals. She had taken the plunge into the fray. Turning away from the group, she found a quiet corner where she could gather her thoughts. The sharp lines of the office's architecture felt suddenly oppressive. Pressure built within her, a cocktail of excitement, anxiety, and an urgent need for clarity. Had she actually made a meaningful contribution? Or was it simply the enthusiasm of the moment that had driven her words? The memory of Lucien's detached gaze gnawed at her. The possibilities he represented stood in stark contrast to the latent fear she felt about her ambitions. Was she truly equipped to handle the rigor of this new environment? The quick exchange of jargon, the claims of innovative breakthroughs, she had been amidst the champions of her dream. But did she have what it took to rise to their rank? Mia took a deep breath, willing herself to calm. She recalled the young executive's words. It's not just about intelligence but also about integration. Integration, what a powerful concept. It wasn't enough to understand technicalities. She needed to weave herself into the fabric of this world. But where did she begin? The stakes began to crystallize in her mind. She couldn't afford to wade through this nebulous ocean of professional development without some clear strategies. She pondered how she could further cultivate relationships that mattered. Perhaps reaching out to that group again would be a starting point, but a lingering doubt whispered. What if they saw through her? What if she faltered? She sat up straight, channeling her unease into a spark of determination. What did she have to lose? The very essence of growth was discomfort, and she had already tasted enough of it this evening. Maybe even Lucien wasn't as untouchable as she had first perceived. Her thoughts spun until she resolved that it was now or never. Revisiting her study notes, Mia considered developing a niche project that encompassed the blending of tech and human-centric marketing. She envisioned holding a workshop that showcased how technology could enhance relationships, highlighting her understanding of user experience while integrating authentic engagement techniques. This, she concluded, could be a way to not just find her footing in the corporate labyrinth but to establish her voice. With a renewed sense of purpose, she gathered her belongings and prepared to step back into the fray. A sense of urgency propelled her as she mentally mapped out how she would contact the executives. But amidst that strategy lay uncertainty. Would they embrace her enthusiasm, or would she be met with skepticism? As she walked toward the gathering crowd, her heart raced with anticipation. And then she saw him again, Lucien. His posture exuded confidence, even from a distance, as he mingled with others, effortlessly commanding attention. The thought of approaching him sent a shiver down her spine. He was a decider and a risk. Mia hesitated for a split second, still grappling with the weight of what would go unsaid. Did she want to impress him, to show him she was more than an underdog? Was she ready to risk judgment to forge an alliance? Or was she merely setting herself up for another confrontation that could expose her weaknesses? The moment was swelling with potential as she locked eyes with Lucien. She could feel the tension, the exhilaration of what could unfold if she bravely reached out. But the path ahead was unclear and murky with doubt. Mia took a deep breath and approached, determined to seize the moment. What lay beyond this confrontation? Would it foster her aspirations or lead to another painful setback? She squared her shoulders, ready to confront not only Lucien but her own beliefs about herself. A fantastic transformation awaited. But would she embrace it? Lucien's piercing gaze met Mia's as she approached, and in that brief spell, the air thickened with unspoken possibilities. He was a formidable presence, yet his silence urged her forward. Mia felt her heartbeat reverberate against her ribcage. It was as if each pulse echoed her conflicting thoughts. Seize the moment. Embrace vulnerability. "Hi, Lucien," she managed, her voice steadier than she felt. He nodded, his expression unreadable yet inviting enough for her to continue. "I wanted to talk about my project idea," she blurted, fear competing with excitement in her chest. "Project idea?" He leaned in slightly, indicating interest. "What's that?" Mia took a breath, an internal battle raging as she elaborated on her vision. Blending technology with human-centric marketing through a workshop. She elaborated on how this approach could enhance user experience while fostering genuine engagement. Details that suddenly felt painfully ambitious spilling from her lips. Lucien listened intently, a flicker of recognition crossing his features. "That's interesting. It can be challenging to balance technology with personal touch in marketing," he said. There it was, the balance she yearned to attain. Her adrenaline buzzed as she sensed a connection forming, as if he glimpsed something in her beyond mere enthusiasm. "Exactly," she replied, riding the wave of adrenaline. "I believe technology can bring people together, not just replace interpersonal connections." Lucien's brow furrowed slightly, contemplating. "You understand the importance of empathy within data. That's a great insight." His affirmation struck a chord within her, reverberating into the depths of her identity. She wasn't just a voice in the crowd. Her understanding was valued, but self-doubt made its presence felt again. What could she do to ensure that this wasn't just a fleeting moment of recognition? Would her idea resonate with the higher echelons of the company, or would it fade into the background amidst more established voices? "Would you be willing to discuss this further?" Lucien's question jolted her from her reverie. "I think the concept has potential, but the execution is critical. You might need guidance, and connecting with the right people could elevate your project." The gravity of his offer pulled her deeper into her own thoughts. Was this what she had been searching for? Lucien held access to the very network she aimed to tap into, but would he truly believe in her vision? The stakes were higher now. Accepting his mentorship would mean more accountability. Taking another deep breath, she met his gaze with newfound assurance. "Yes, I do appreciate guidance. I want this project to succeed, and I know it requires collaboration." A faint smile broke on Lucien's lips, transforming his earlier aloofness into something warmer. "Good. Let's set up something formal. I could introduce you to some colleagues who specialize in innovation. They might help refine your approach." As they discussed logistics, Mia felt a glimmer of hope battling her fears. The sense of possibility expanded beyond her initial concept. It was a chance to rewrite her narrative. She could transform from the sidelined participant into a key player. Walking away from their conversation, she felt lighter, but it soon morphed into a brewing storm of anxiety. It was one thing to have Lucien's interest. It was another to validate that interest through tangible results. The pressure amplified with every step. What if she faltered in front of the very people who could either uplift or dismantle her aspirations? The thought churned in her mind as she replayed Lucien's words. "You'll need to prove yourself," that inner critic whispered incessantly, testing her resolve. But this was not just about proving anything to anyone. It was about a promise made to herself, a commitment to push boundaries for the sake of growth. She could feel the pulse of ambition swelling inside her. She wasn't merely drifting anymore. As sunset draped the office building in soft hues, Mia envisioned the workshop filled with people eager to learn, a space not just for marketing but for authentic connection. Tethered to that vision was Lucien's support, a potential alliance heavy with promise. Yet from this newfound momentum, questions emerged. Would she be able to present her ideas in the intense scrutiny of her peers? The moment of collaboration loomed like a horizon, but storms were often found at sea. And as far as the perception of her competence, would it truly be enough to silence her fears or amplify them? Mia couldn't shake the sense of approaching turbulence. The next steps would demand everything of her. The path ahead was set, yet the destination grew unpredictable. What awaited her in that landscape? Would she harness her ambition into tangible achievements, or would self-doubt derail her again? Answers danced just beyond reach, taunting her with their elusiveness. Mia's next steps were poised to define not just her professional development, but her fundamental character. In that ecosystem of captivation and challenge, growth awaited, but so did the raw intensity of her anxieties bubbling beneath the surface. Mia's thoughts swirled in a cyclone of anticipation and doubt. The next days would be crucial, a stage set for validation or defeat. Would her confidence withstand the scrutiny that awaited her? The idea of exposing her vision to the vital yet critical voices of the company loomed ominously. In the following morning's routine, Mia tried to ground herself in familiar tasks. The ding of her computer notifications felt like flashing warning lights. As emails piled up, so did the mounting expectations she imposed on herself. She caught a glimpse of her reflection in the screen, determined yet vulnerable. This power struggle within felt almost palpable. With Lucien's words echoing in her mind, Mia made a decision. Today, she would take deliberate steps toward converting anxiety into preparation. She needed more than just a vague concept. She required a plan, a structured presentation that encapsulated her vision clearly and compellingly. The dream of her workshop morphed into a tangible blueprint. She blocked out time to brainstorm. Post-its littered her desk as she fleshed out subtopics, aiming for clarity and purpose. Mia dove deep into research, gathering data that could support her vision for blending technology with emotional intelligence in marketing. She sourced articles, case studies, and innovative examples, each piece deepening her understanding and refining her narrative. Each new insight fostered a burgeoning sense of empowerment. With each statistic she cataloged, she began to recognize her hidden competence, the ability to synthesize complex ideas into accessible formats. This realization invigorated her spirit, rekindling determination to ensure her voice was heard, to stand not just as a participant but as the orchestrator of innovative dialogue. However, lurking shadows of self-doubt kept whispering insidious thoughts in her ear. Could she hold her own in a room full of seasoned professionals? The haunting question morphed into a mantra, threatening to unravel her gains. Yet, each time doubt encroached, Mia reminded herself of Lucien's initial encouragement. He believed in her insights. She deserved to believe in them too. Later in the day, after a productive session, she felt a shift within. Transformation was thoroughly underway. With sharpened clarity, she decided to practice her presentation techniques in the mirror. How to convey enthusiasm balanced with authority. Mia adopted a confident stance, enunciating each part of her project aloud, watching her confidence blossom and shrink, a constant chess match with her internal self. After several attempts, she recognized that her body language could amplify her message. It wasn't just about the words. It was about embodying passion. This discovery ignited a new wave of enthusiasm. Each rephrased sentence, even the slight adjustments in gestures, heightened her understanding of delivery. Yet, a lingering nervousness threatened to douse her spirit again. What if instead of inspiring connections, she elicited skepticism? The weight of external judgment loomed larger than before. She pondered the personalities of the colleagues Lucien had spoken of. Were they supportive innovators? Or would they dismantle her project piece by piece? As she prepared for the anticipated meeting, she felt a crack forming in her determinate facade. Was this anxiety or excitement? Maybe both. The answer remained elusive, suspended like the chaos of her thoughts. With the days dwindling until the introduction, Mia reflected on each adjustment she made. Every change was a lesson learned. Another thread pulled in the fabric she was weaving for herself. She was learning to craft her narrative, not merely for the audience but for her own empowerment. And just as she felt the sense of control take root, a message pinged on her phone. A reminder from Lucien about their upcoming meeting. The urgency of the situation sent her heart racing. What if this meeting rendered her efforts inadequate? What if she could never match her aspirations? It was time to confront these fears head-on. With a steadying breath, Mia reminded herself that this journey was as much about personal growth as it was about professional success. Embracing both facets would shape who she would become. The moment had come to face what lay beyond the brink of her ambition. One thing was certain. A transformation awaited, and its intensity could either light a new path or plunge her back into shadows. In the aftermath of these reflections, a fiery resolve took hold. Mia no longer simply wanted to be in the company of innovators. She was ready to be one herself and turn the turbulence of self-doubt into an unwavering current of determination. The time for decision was approaching. Her next actions would define not only her project but her path forward. As she stared at the outlines of her vision, a thrilling question emerged. Was she ready to confront the true essence of her ambition? There was no turning back. It was all coming to a head at the upcoming meeting. Would this be a moment of miraculous affirmation or devastating judgment? Mia woke early the next day, anxious energy coursing through her veins. The day had finally arrived. Today was the moment she had prepared for, a culmination of her efforts, thoughts, and fears. As she moved through her morning routine, she took time to breathe deeply, longing for that inner calm she had felt earlier in the week. Was it possible to rediscover that clarity amidst the growing tension? In the quiet of her small kitchen, she carefully brewed her favorite coffee, the warmth of the cup grounding her for the upcoming storm. Sipping the rich brew, Mia reflected on how far she had come. Each piece of research, every practiced sentence, had contributed to something greater. Yet, the gnawing edge of anxiety tugged at her. What would happen if they dismissed her ideas? Would her newfound empowerment be enough to silence the voices of doubt that still lurked in her mind? An image of Lucien flashed before her, his unwavering belief in her potential serving as a lifeline. With his encouragement echoing in her thoughts, she turned her focus back to her vision. This wasn't simply about impressing her colleagues. It was about unveiling her understanding of the intersection between technology and emotional intelligence. It was about carving a niche that few had dared to explore. As she dressed, Mia envisioned herself in the meeting room. She pondered the faces that filled it. Would they be open-minded mentors or harsh critics? She shook her head, refusing to allow those thoughts to fester. Instead, she envisioned their reactions to her presentation: nods of agreement, intrigued expressions, excitement about fresh ideas. This meditation acted as a shield, fortifying her against the impending pressure. Arriving at the office, an uneasiness washed over her. The air was electric with possibilities, yet charged with the unspoken judgments that came so easily in the world of corporate ambition. The meeting room door awaited her entry, a looming threshold to liberation or despair. With heart pounding and palms clammy, she entered. The room was alive, filled with the buzz of energy from her colleagues. She took a moment to adjust to the atmosphere, allowing herself to scan the crowd, momentarily connecting eyes with Lucien. He offered a reassuring nod, igniting a flicker of confidence within her. As Mia began her presentation, She channeled the numerous hours of preparation into each word spoken. She spoke of emotional intelligence not merely as a trend, but as a profound tool for understanding consumer behavior in a rapidly evolving digital landscape. Gradually, she noticed the room beginning to shift. The tense air softened as people leaned forward, engaged. Mia could see the wheels turning in their minds, the initial skepticism dissolving into curiosity. With every statistic shared and every example illustrating her point, she could feel her confidence consolidating into something that was no longer a fragile construct. She was no longer the anxious participant. She was instilling new ideas and wisdom into the dialogue. Yet, just as she felt the momentum build, a voice interrupted, questioning her logic. A senior executive, known for his critical eye, leaned forward, casting a shadow over her thoughts. Mia's stomach plummeted. Could the tide turn so quickly? Her heart raced as she prepared to respond. A part of her wanted to defend her work fiercely, wielding her crucial insights like armor. The other part urged caution, reminding her to listen actively. Here lay a pivotal moment, a chance not only to stand her ground but also to evolve from this challenge. What would she choose? Mia's mind raced through possible responses as the tension crackled in the air. This was the crossroads where her personal evolution hung in the balance. Could she accept constructive feedback and pivot her ideas, transforming critique into growth? Or would she falter under scrutiny, allowing doubt to reign? As the audience awaited her response, Mia realized the power of this moment extended far beyond the meeting. Something within her was shifting. The ambition she had so fervently clung to started evolving into a deeper understanding of collaboration and resilience. The meeting could set ablaze a new path, or reshape her vision entirely. Either way, the profound connection between personal integrity and professional ambition had never felt clearer. She inhaled, ready to respond, a fire igniting in her core. Whatever came next could redefine her trajectory. How will Mia respond to the challenge laid before her, and what would it reveal about her true ambitions? Mia stood in the meeting room, a critical juncture unfolding before her. The executive's question echoed ominously in her mind, a thorough challenge to her entire presentation. But instead of retreating to the familiar safety of doubt, she felt a surge of resolve coursing through her. "Thank you for your input," she began, firmly yet sincerely. "I understand your concerns about potential shortcomings. However, allow me to clarify how my approach integrates not just data, but also the humanity behind it. Consumers today crave authentic connections. The right blend of emotional intelligence with technology isn't merely a strategy. It's a necessity. By tapping into the consumer psyche, we can drive engagement in ways other models overlook." Her ability to engage dynamically with criticism transformed the atmosphere in the room. She no longer felt like an outsider defending her position. Instead, she became a pivotal voice in an active conversation about innovation as she pressed on, articulating her revised strategies and addressing the executive's concerns by integrating his feedback into her vision. She witnessed subtle shifts in her audience's expressions. Head nods replaced skeptical frowns. Genuine curiosity replaced initial indifference. Mia's power was no longer fleeting or contingent on others' approval. It was rooted in authenticity, resilience, and a deepening connection to her own narrative. With clarity and purpose, she outlined how her workshop could position their company as a leader, bridging the gap between technology and user experience. We must remember that empathy cannot be coded but rather lived. It's about crafting products that speak to people's needs and aspirations. This is where I believe we can lead the industry. Mia finished strong with a confident call to action, inviting collaboration and dialogue about next steps. The applause that followed surged through her. She was met with enthusiasm not just from Lucien, but from the broader audience. In this moment, she discovered the magnitude of her own transformation. She now commanded the room as she stepped back to receive feedback. The executive who had questioned her earlier now leaned forward, breaking into a contemplative smile. "I see the potential here. You've managed to instill depth into your approach. Let us explore how we can implement these ideas effectively." The validation washed over her, a stunning realization that grew into solid confidence. Moments earlier, she had feared judgment. Now, she had proven herself capable. It was not just about winning approval. It was about realizing her power. In the weeks that followed, Mia embraced her new role decisively. She organized her workshop, elevating it from a mere concept to a structured event that garnered interest from various departments within the company. She facilitated discussions that blended technical insights with narratives filled with empathy, weaving connections between numbers and stories. As the workshop concluded with a successful turnout and lively discussions, several high-level executives praised her initiative. Lucien's supportive presence underscored her sense of belonging, and she felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. "Congratulations, Mia," he said sincerely after the final session. "You've sparked something fresh here. Your revolutionary ideas can change not just products but the entire approach to how we communicate with technology." Mia beamed with pride, acknowledging not just the workshop's success but her growth. She had not only utilized her skills in communication but had embraced her own identity, an innovator and a changemaker, intimidating barriers with empathy and technology. What began as a shaky exploration evolved into her authentic self thriving in the professional landscape. She had conquered her self-doubt, transforming it into a drive that vowed to lighten the path for others like her. The once timid girl, who felt insignificant in the face of affluence and barriers, stood strong in the spotlight of achievement, an accomplished professional with fresh ambitions that now seemed limitless. Mia reflected on where her journey had begun and knew she had crossed a threshold into a new realm of possibility. It was clear, she had not only made a mark but established her position within the community of innovators. This was her moment. She had turned aspirations into reality through resilience and determination, and she would continue to fight for a future where voices like hers required no justification but were inherently understood. Now, more than ever, it was time for you to reflect on your journey. Don't wait another moment. You need to subscribe now and join our true community of overcomers. Leave a like to make your voice heard and spark further inspirational content. Be sure to comment below with your thoughts, reactions, or theories about this incredible transformation, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness how true ambition can redefine their paths. This is the moment to show your support.